I've been really enjoying the games on the Patches Versus Mod. So what I've got for you today are a couple of best of threes. We're starting with a Terran versus Protoss played on the brand new patch. This is the mod that the majority of the pro gamers have been practicing on lately. It's kind of insane. A lot of people currently are not playing ladder, but they're, well, choosing to play this instead, which in the history of StarCraft 2 has never happened before. Very excited though to find out exactly what this man is gonna cook up in this best of 3 series. Playing with the red SCVs, we're looking inside of the main base of Clem. Widely considered to be the very best Terran on the planet, and obviously, well, if you want to get better at Terran, he's certainly one of the names that you need to keep in mind. His opponent, down in the bottom right, somebody I have casted games from before, but I don't recall ever uploading it to my main YouTube channel. Either way, playing right here with the blue Protoss pieces. In case you're unfamiliar, we're looking inside of the main base of LetaLex, or LetaLex. I know his first name is Alex, so I never know if it's LetaLex or LetaLex. It doesn't really matter all too much. Either way, this is, of course, well, played on the Patches mod, which means that the entire playing field has been leveled a ton. In case you're unfamiliar with this mod, this has effectively been in the works for many years now, and recently, since 5.0.16 has left a sour taste in the mouths of many pro gamers, this is a mod that people have actually been giving a proper try, and it turns out pretty much all of the additions are pretty dang reasonable. Yeah, it turns out that maybe Blizzard doesn't want to make too many drastic changes, but this mod is certainly not, well, gonna have to be as cautious. Some of the stuff is maybe a little bit experimental. I do believe that some of the things may be a little bit broken, but on the whole, from what I've seen so far, the mod is remarkably balanced. Now, what's gonna be cool here is that obviously normally, right? I mean, I don't want to disrespect LetaLex here at all, but normally in a best of 3, I'm gonna say it's a Clem 2-0, probably 95% of the time. He's a higher ranking grandmaster player, he's ridiculously good at the game, but Clem is Clem, right? What in the world do you do against somebody of Clem's caliber if he gets to play his A game? Maybe though, our Protoss can bring something spicy to the table, like for example with this probe right over here. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what the plan is. Reapers, not really changed very much, although they do have a couple of additional upgrades. I don't believe we're really going to be seeing those, though. The idea is that they can still scale into the later stages of the game as well, with some upgrades making them a little bit more viable. But this is going to be a proxy pylon on the other side of the map. Now, there's one really big change that they have made to pylons and like early game shenanigans in general for Protoss in this mod, and that is the fact that strategic recall has been removed from the Nexus and has been moved on over to the upgraded version of the pylon. So there's an upgrade that you can make to the pylon. I think it's called like warp conduit or something along those lines. Maybe it's conduit pylon. I'm not 100% sure on the name. But if you upgrade this pylon for like 100 minerals and I think like 50 gas, maybe 75 gas, something along those lines, you get to warp units towards the pylon. It's kind of like upgrading a supply depot to like an upgraded version of a supply depot. It allows you to get more supply as well. But then obviously it also gains the ability to recall, which is kind of crazy. I'm not sure if that's what the plan is. Obviously you don't really need to, but it is certainly something that I would like to see players experiment with more. And from what I've heard, this is a very common build right now on this particular mod. Yep, here we go. Here we go. We're doing it. This is so sick. It's a new structure. It looks weird, eh? So while there is a dance going on the other side of the map, dang, look at that. Conduit Pylon. Yeah, and that's where the recall ability is now located. So we're gonna recall towards the pylon in the upper right-hand corner of the map. Now, there are still, yeah, a bunch of Reapers available. Clem obviously has no idea that all of those Protoss units have just left the natural expansion, and they're gonna suddenly appear on the other side of the map. Let's see, this is one of those things, man. Even if you are really good at the game, your macro is really crisp, your micro is phenomenal, if you don't see this sort of thing coming in, you are in a world of trouble. He force field it? Oh, I don't think he has energy. Could have maybe prevented a lot of those units from getting out. In the meantime, we have those Reapers and that Hellion committing to the counterattack, but already there's units available to deny all of this. Oh, by the way, I believe if you warp in units as well, they don't spawn with like full shields or something. I think only if you warp in close to like a Conduit Pylon? Do they spawn with full shields? Either way, we have a Raven going to town, denying a lot of economy. But honestly, I wonder if there's enough available right here for Clem to hold. Wait a second. He is popping a lot of units out of those production structures. And Clem's micro is still phenomenal. At this point, his worker count, though, has taken a massive hit. With double mule production, you might be able to still put in some work. But for the time being, Protoss here is going to be able to produce way more stuff. It's kind of beautiful, isn't it? I really like the look of it as well. It just looks kind of sick. All right. Do we have enough? Widowmine gets sniped. Marauders are being targeted down. Nice split targeting right there as well by the Protoss units. Making sure that in one volley, both of the Marauders there in that batch ended up going down. There's another Marauder popping out. Combat shields and Stimpack are nearly done, but at this point, there's like no more units available that actually benefit from those upgrades. Yeah, I mean, 2 Marines with Stimpack is nice and all, but what in the world are we really gonna do with it? Honestly, I think this is game over. Huh. And this is exactly why I really like the mod. These are fresh all-ins, builds that were not viable in the past, but also strategies that don't appear to be broken to me. Maybe it is busted, I don't know, but this seems just really sick. Who would have thought LetaLex here was gonna win game number 1? Alrighty, game number 2, we find ourselves at Eternity's Edge. Now, if you're interested in reading about all of the changes, I'll post a link to the Google Docs down below. We're currently on version 3.0 because, well, this is obviously community run. These versions are updated quite rapidly as well. So that's another one of those things. Normally with Blizzard, they, I guess, have to go through a lot of checks and balances to make sure that things aren't absolutely crazy. But these are really Blizzard-like changes, and this is it's kind of a rough thing to say, I guess, but these are very Blizzard-like changes that they would have implemented if they were still busy developing StarCraft 2. And the simple fact of the matter is that Blizzard is pretty much entirely hands-off these days. It's a little bit unfortunate, but yeah, these are changes that I think I would have seen at the very least Blizzard in the past implemented directly themselves as well, because it doesn't appear to be broken, but it's introducing a very fresh meta to the game. Now, I do have to warn you, there's like 40 pages worth of documentation for this mod, so it's nice to look up some of the individual changes, and I do have the docs open as well on my second screen, just in case we see something that I don't quite recognize, because I'm sure we're going to see some interactions that are crazy. But every time I cast these games, every time I have a look at these games, I just expect that something is going to be utterly busted, but so far that hasn't really happened. Every single time I see viewer games or just like high-level games in general on custom mods, there's always some sort of strategy that is just too good. And if you don't patch that really quickly, people just lose interest. But Patches and then the rest of the crew have clearly been trying their absolute best to balance this quite nicely. And, well, ultimately, and this really is the key, for a lot of the top-level players, this mod is making StarCraft 2 fun again. Yeah, I can just come out and say it, I guess. A lot of them are very frustrated with 5.0.16. Not even necessarily the patch. So balance-wise, the patch is pretty much okay. But I think there's just a little bit of like a miscommunication or a lack of communication, where the players kind of feel like they're not being heard at all by Blizzard. There's no explanation to some of the changes at all. It's just quite frustrating. Especially the 8 worker start is generally disliked by all high-ranking players. Personally, I think it's whatever, but it's very annoying if you're a player, right? Like, for casting games, I mean, obviously I can play as well, but for casting games, I can just fast forward through the first minute or so, and it doesn't really matter, but it all just feels a little bit tone-deaf, I guess. And you never really know. Since there's not like a really big tournament on the horizon right now to practice for, and since Blizzard is clearly just going for random changes every once in a while, I think a lot of people are like, yo, I don't really feel like practicing this too much because what in the world's going on? And what's pretty sick now is that this mod actually has a lot of weekly tournaments. So a lot of the people that are running weekly events, I would say about half of them are using the current version of StarCraft 2. And then the other half are using, well, this version of StarCraft 2 instead. Which is pretty crazy, man. Like, it's just never really happened like that before. Good force field. We do see 2 probes going down here in total, but a Hellion also dies. Not the end of the world at all. What is the plan here? Are we going Dark Templar? Are we really gonna cheese? It's the only thing that makes sense, yeah. Are we really gonna cheese Clem 2 games back to back? I guess that's the, yeah, that's what we're going for. All right, now let me go ahead and just have a look at exactly what the changes are to the Dark Shrine and the Dark Templar. So the Dark Shrine build time is decreased. Ah, okay. The build time has been reduced from 71 seconds to 57 seconds. The build time is reduced to pair with the reworked Dark Templar. This change allows you to tech up to the new Stalker, Tachyon emitters, and Phase Reactor upgrades faster. Right, so there's a bunch of upgrades that will allow the Stalker to scale better into the later stages of the game. So maybe actually that's what we have over here. Yeah, he is making a lot of Stalkers actually. It might not be for Dark Templar. It might be specifically just to get the Stalker boost going, which has been very interesting as well. Oh, careful, careful. Jeez. No, 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 no. Well, we went the wrong way with that one. All right. There's a little bit of a distraction going on, too. Well, that was terrible. That was a bit of a problem. At least we find a little bit of a safe haven there for Probius, but let's see. Can the Dark Templar now achieve anything? Maybe we wanted to go for some of the, yeah, Stalker aggression, but let's see what we can do here with the DTs. Problem is, there's already a Raven up in the air. Now, Ravens have been entirely reworked. I was going to talk about that in the previous game, but that match was over in a heartbeat. They effectively still have their auto turrets available, but other than that, they're an entirely different unit, and I think it's quite reasonable to rework the Raven of everything. So right now, they're 100 gas, down from 150 Vespine. So normally 115 is kind of a lot. They are also a little bit quicker to build. Their life has been increased, but their armor has been reduced. Interference Matrix research cost has been increased by 50-50. Auto turret duration has been increased. Auto turret life, however, has been reduced. The Interference Matrix energy cost is from 75 to 100. And Interference Matrix now also slows the target's movement speed by 50%. Okay. There's a new ability on the Raven called Repair Drone. Drops a repair drone that repairs units at a rate of 13.6 HP a second. That's 1 HP more than a medevac. Repair drones have 200 energy and restore 1 life per 1 energy. So it makes the unit a lot more accessible as an early game detector while adding more utility in TVP and TVZ outside of very specific pushes. Now, I think in this particular instance, we're really just using it as a way to be safe. So we don't have the anti-armor missile anymore, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that entire ability has been removed. But you can still use it in this instance as well to, for example, touch up the siege tanks while you're out on the move, right? Or out on a map, I'm assuming at the very least. It allows you to repair those sorts of things up as well. So the repair drone provides utility to battle mech and mech compositions, allowing for new styles with this unique style of healing. Unlike medevac healing, which uses energy as needed, casting a repair drone is a 50 energy commitment, and if the repair drone does not use all of its energy, it's wasted healing potential. Right. That's the idea. Anyways, let's see. Because this early game was quite terrible for LetaLex, I wonder how this is going to work out, because these are terrifying Terran attacks. Clem is going to go for the concussive shells upgrade. It is the upgraded version of it, because it now also affects the grenades of Reapers. Yeah, LetaLex needs a Colossus or two against this sort of thing, but he is miles off from that. He wants to get the Zealots around the back. You can now, by the way, manually cast charge as well, which is pretty sick. He will be able to intercept at least the 2 Widow Mines here, but how in the world is he planning on stopping this push? There's one attack here for LetaLex. He needs to defend here. Great auto turrets. Oy, 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 oy. Those auto turrets, yep, preventing the Zealots from charging at the siege tanks. Well, that is game over. Brilliant match here by Clem, playing it out pretty much flawlessly. And that will take us to Sanctuary 3. Final game in this best of 3 series. Yeah, you're not really supposed to lose a lot of probes to a Widow Mine drop. It's one of those things where if you maybe watch too much high-level StarCraft, you kind of have become... I guess you get used to those sorts of attacks just not dealing any damage. Like, it rarely happens when we see Protoss on 2 bases that are gonna take 10 workers plus worth of damage from a Widow Mine drop. But the fragility in StarCraft 2 is something that I think is nice to be reminded of every once in a while, because it's a brutal game. If you've ever given StarCraft 2 1v1 a try, you know how difficult it is. Which is actually kind of a funny note. I've been getting a lot more YouTube comments lately of people saying, yo, I really enjoy watching StarCraft 2, but I've never actually played it myself. And I find this very interesting. I feel like StarCraft 2 is unique as an esport in general, in that sense. I think there's very few people out there that watch high-level League of Legends or Dota or Counter-Strike or whatever, whilst never having played those games themselves. Yeah, maybe Counter-Strike. I feel like Counter-Strike is simple enough to the point where you can, yeah, at the very least, if you've played any sort of first-person shooter, you might be able to understand how difficult it is. But I think for StarCraft 2, it's kind of sick that there's so many people interested in the game, while maybe never having played the game or just having not played the game in many, many years. Sometimes I think people are... I don't know, sometimes I feel like people are almost like ashamed to say that, you know? Like they enjoy watching StarCraft, but they haven't played it in a really long time. I don't think that's a problem at all, personally. I think it just makes this more similar to regular sports. Right? Like, I don't know. For some reason, I've been watching a lot of darts lately. There's something about it. I used to play it a bunch as a kid. I used to watch it a little bit as a kid as well, but I haven't touched, yeah, any sort of darts in like a decade, maybe two. I don't know. It's been forever. But I still enjoy watching it, right? And I feel like that is, at least in the esports world, quite rare for people to enjoy watching a game whilst not really playing it themselves. Anyways, let's see where this is gonna go. We have a cheeky little bunker rush. This is outside of the vision of the Nexus. Stalker coming up. Extra barracks also building. There's yet again a probe in the bottom right-hand corner. Our Protoss here obviously quite fond of a little bit of early game aggression, as you may have already noticed. Yeah, we're gonna need a shield battery over here. Because otherwise, you're not gonna be able to snipe the bunker or the Reaper. Nah, we can't do that. Nah, we can't do that. Nah, we can't do that. I just looked up, by the way, LetaLex's Wikipedia page. So he's in his early 20s. He's an Italian Protoss player. And apparently he started playing this game when Reynor won the World Championships. This is another one of those things that is quite unique in StarCraft now, man. This game has been around for such a long time that there's players out there that don't know anything about Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, even like the first 5+ years of Legacy of the Void. There's like an entire decade of StarCraft 2 competition that I think a lot of people have no clue about. And well, maybe obviously they've caught up on some of the VODs, but it's pretty cool to see that we have high-ranking players that really have only been playing for like the last maybe 4 or 5 years or so. I think Reynor ended up winning in, what was it, 2021? I think it was 2021. Maybe 22? I don't know. Anyways, pretty sick, right? That obviously made it to the news. People pick up on it. Bada bing, bada boom. Pretty nice to see. Apparently, it also says that LetaLex used to be a League of Legends player before that point. Yeah. So he has been converted. He saw the truth one day. Used to be a League player, then became a StarCraft player. So it's possible. It's possible, you know. If you have any friends out there that play a lot of League of Legends, maybe just tell them. Tell them the word. Do your StarCraft 2 missionary work, okay? Tell them the truth. Ironically, right now, Reynor is a phenomenal League of Legends player. He's been playing that game a ton. Apparently making it to Challenger not too long ago. Yeah, we're gonna go for some aggression yet again. So, sadly right here for Clem, he did not quite see the pylon on the right side of the map just yet, although he's moving back around yet. Well, okay, he's gonna notice it. That's a really big deal. Because letting this pylon go up would be problematic. It's gonna make it a little bit difficult, of course. Stalkers are getting warped in right now, but if you wanted to go for some Blink Stalker aggression, it's very handy to have those units on the other side of the map. This is going to be a 6-gate push. Man, the Reapers are putting in a ton of work right now. Clem has decided to just march home. So Clem wanted to go and snipe a third, and then he saw, wait a second, there is no third. There's no Robo. There's no Colossi coming. I'm actually much better off just sitting at home, waiting for the opponent to come to me. If you're really worried here as a Terran, you could even go into like a bunker. But apparently Clem is, yeah, he's oozing confidence right now. He feels like he's gonna be okay regardless. Again, this is too much. 7 probes going down in the earlier stages of this game to just a little bit of early game pressure from Clem is a little bit much. A lot of pylons coming in. We're hitting a little bit of a supply block too. Not the end of the world, of course, when you can warp in a lot of units, but it's far from ideal. Fighting up a ramp right now with no detection whatsoever. I don't know about that. Yeah, we can force field it, but I think Clem is very happy being stuck inside of his main base. Concussive shells are going to be done. We have the +1 done as well in about a half-minute time. And if this upgrade finishes before these players fight, Clem is going to just dominate. There's no charge, so we're warping in. There we go. We want more of a Conduit Pylon. It's kind of sick, eh? There's something about this structure that just looks really beautiful to me. It's kind of awesome. Anyways, I'm not really liking the odds right here for Protoss very much. Clem's like, yo, you still out there? Oh, you're still out there. Okay, I'll back off. Clem's now even feeling confident enough to maybe go up there. Yeah, he needs to be a little bit careful. Look at the Zealots, though, without charge. Zealots without charge are what we call in the business garbage. He starts up the upgrade right now, making me believe that maybe he forgot it. But yeah, we call that unit absolute hot garbage without the research because it's just not very good. We can go for a bit of a slow push. Sure. SCVs get pulled as well, but Clem has decided to just go ahead and pull the trigger. Hold position on the SCVs as well. Meaning that if you attack move, yeah, the units are not going to choose the workers there. They're really just hindering a lot of the movement. Now Clem is coming down from the high ground. And I think that without charge, this army of Protoss is just going to get cleaned up. Man, I would have really liked to see this fight actually with charge. I think with charge, there was very real potential for this to work out favorably for Protoss. But it's not going to happen this time around. GG. Now, I mentioned the other day when I was casting some of Reynor's game on this, or Reynor's games rather, on this mod, that I would really like to see some more early game aggression. I want to see what sort of cheeses Zerg is capable of. Now, I don't know if we're going to see cheeses in these particular games, but if anybody is going to bring some early game pressure, I think we should look at none other than Lorimbo. Lorimbo is, I think his average game is about 4 minutes long. He made a Reddit post a couple of months ago talking about the 5.0.16 changes. I'm pretty sure in the duration of Lorimbo writing that post, he could have also played 20 ladder games, because that was a very long thread. His opponent, though, in the upper left, playing right here with the blue Protoss, we have Shameless. A very solid macro Protoss most of the time. So, let's see. Let's see how this is gonna go. Obviously, again, played on the Patches mod. Is there some sort of dirt that Zerg can go for here in the early game? Considering it's a gas into a pool, I've got a feeling that we do have some sort of aggression cooking up. But obviously, if you're a Protoss and you look at this, you're not gonna immediately assume your opponent will be cheesing you. We may very well even have an expansion. Already, though, Lorimbo playing some cheeky mind games. Wanted to go down to the third base. Maybe he's even going to take it. Yeah. And again, this doesn't necessarily mean macro, right? So, obviously, you also, for a lot of all-ins, do just need a lot of larva generation. So, let's see. Honestly, though, you need players like Lorimbo. You need cheesy players when you are making your own mod to figure out if something is busted. Because players will find dirt and they will execute that dirt until it gets fixed. What are we doing? Roach Warren? Oh yeah, we're going roaches as well. Is there any change fundamentally to the early game roach here? So they have the additional upgrades that make them one supply. That's not going to be available until very late. Shameless does see 6 lings right now in total. Alright, let's see. What sort of follow-up do we have here in the meantime? Not enough gas yet for a Stargate. I think you probably want to go Stargate against this. Maybe Shameless originally was going for something else, but he's now saving up to 150 Vespene here, so he can actually defend against ground units a little bit more reliably. Ugh, he decides to put down the Stargate as part of the wall. I get it, but it also scares me a little bit. If the Stargate falls, I think the game is practically over. But then again, you also have better odds of the main base not being overrun if you have a, well, a big expensive structure with a lot of shields and HP down as part of the wall. Honestly, I wonder if that's the case, though. Maybe we should have just full walled instead. Full walling is never something Protoss players enjoy. At this point, he hasn't really seen that much movement yet. But obviously, he knows that the opponent is Lorimbo. He has seen an early pool. When there's smoke, there's fire. I think it's smart to be a little bit cautious. So, link speed is done. Obviously, the hatchery now works a little bit differently. Queen injects also work a little bit differently. Long story short, if you have a lair, if you have a hive, you get more larvae on it. This is just a good old hatchery, but a Void Ray is not a bad idea. Let's see. 3.5 minutes. The clock is ticking, man. Lorimbo's average game duration is going up right now in this game. Both of these players, by the way, in case you're unfamiliar, very high-ranking grandmasters. Both of them have played a whole lot of tournaments. Yeah, I don't think there's fundamentally a lot different, actually. You could do this build as well in the live version of StarCraft. So the Void Ray obviously will clear out everything here eventually. Pylons right now need to be finishing up. If he ever wants to make another Stargate unit, I think that indeed this pylon is also going to get shut down, and it'll be difficult to make another one. Yeah, we are going to see, though, the probe just popped out of the natural expansion. We're going to see that one go down and sneak around the site. Complete the wall off here, get that Stargate powered up yet again. Pylon in the main base also falls. He's really just trying to supply block Protoss for the time being. Double shield battery, though, is awesome. Those probes obviously do pack a punch. It's going to be difficult, really, for, yeah, the Zerglings alone to finish the job. New pylon, not quite going to be added into the mix. The additional one, though, that was part of the wall-off is now available. Void Ray trying its absolute best. I mean, it's got 17 kills. It's not bad at all, but while all of this is going on, Protoss has twice the worker count. So if somehow, some way, there's some world here where Protoss stabilizes, life's going to be okay. He decides to now go for a new Stargate, close to the shield batteries. Obviously, that allows you to also use those shield batteries to keep the structure alive. You can regen the structure's HP as well if you, well, decide to right-click onto it with the shield battery. But droning is now indeed part of the game. I guess Lorimbo has decided that his very best chances now are adding on more workers. Sniping the opponent's natural, because he's not going to be able to break the main base here of Shameless with just Zerglings alone. So, back to the drawing board. Where do we go from here? Very difficult game to play, by the way, as well, from Protoss' point of view. Like, yeah, you may have more workers, but... yeah. How in the world do you now proceed? More Void Rays. Yeah. Void Rays, I believe, mostly unchanged in this mod. Void Ray. Oh, yeah, okay, so their armor has gone up from 0 to 1. Oh, and right, that is a big change, actually. The Flux Veins research for the Void Ray was moved to the Cyber Core. So you can still research it only if you have a Stargate, but that's the movement speed boost for the Void Ray. Normally you need to get a Fleet Beacon for that, but Fleet Beacons are very expensive. 300 minerals, 200 gas. It's a very niche upgrade. We rarely see it. It's one of those upgrades that you get in case you are in the late game and you happen to have a bunch of Void Rays and you happen to have a bunch of money. That's when you get Flux Veins. It's rarely used as a strategic decision. So that's another one of those candidates for improvement, I would say. Now, what about this Nexus, man? It's very low. More links are showing up. It does get cancelled. Probe wants to rebuild it yet again. Second Void Ray finally out. Well, actually, that's the third Void Ray. We have the second one on the other side. So, currently, the Void Ray is extremely niche, it says in the Google Docs. The armor buff is intended to give the Void Ray a slight boost in strength in the early game, and to make the Void Ray's base armor consistent with its armored tag. Flux Veins has been moved to the Cyber Core to encourage more diverse air openers without forcing a commitment to Skytles. Right, and that's another thing, of course, when you do go for a Fleet Beacon. When you've already made the Fleet Beacon, you may as well just go ahead and play Skytles altogether. Now you might be able to play a Void Ray timing attack. If indeed Shameless decides to go for the research, I don't know. He might not deem it to be worth it. We have a little bit of Void Ray harassment. Just killed 2 drones. This is the Lorimbo special, though. Oh, yep, there we go. Apparently, we had a little bit of a pause. 1 second, hotkey problem. Go, 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 go. All right, so he swapped out the +1 attack. He swapped out into another upgrade. And this right over here is the Void Ray movement speed. And doesn't it just make sense, right? Like, when's the last time in a high-ranking game? And that's obviously one of the things that you always have to keep in mind, right? Like, I know the ladder is very much so very Void Ray heavy. There's people playing 4v4s as I'm saying this with like 50 Void Rays in their army composition, right? Like that happens. But at a high level, Void Rays are considered to be one of the absolute worst units in the game. One of the reasons that the upgrade for the Void Rays, the movement speed is great, but it's just really hard to reach. And this is one of the things that I think the mod does really well. It just moves it to another structure, or it buffs the unit in some other way. In this instance, we're gonna see mass Void Ray though. Shameless here, apparently entirely shameless indeed. Triple base mass Void Ray. This wasn't the original game plan, I don't think. But he was forced in that direction. Hydralisks here are going to be Lorimbo's weapon of choice, it appears to be. We do have some queens trying their absolute best. I believe if you upgrade the queens to swarm queens, they do get worse anti-air. So you gotta be a little bit careful. Maybe very tempting. Yeah, there's also a new upgrade now for the Hydras that gives them 10 additional health, which is just phenomenal, but it's quite expensive. And we are a ways off. There's also just a lot of upgrades, I guess, that you need to get on the Hydralisk first. The movement speed, the ranged, and then eventually you might want to think about the extra HP. Honestly, right now, the amount of voids available, we can start dealing with the queens quite reliably. Yeah, I wonder if maybe we should have turned around, but difficult call to make. Obviously, this is basically the entire army here for Protoss. Okay, so both players now on 3 bases. We are still going to go Fleet Beacon. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what the plan is. Maybe he wants to go into carriers. He does see the Hydra transition right now. Normally, I think you would probably want to go into something like Psystorm. Or Charge Lots. Both of them really viable choices. I wonder what the plan is with the Fleet Beacon. We're going for a Forge as well, but I would imagine the Forge is primarily for Photon Cannons? Are we just gonna try and turtle up? I guess that is the plan. 4th Nexus also gets added into the mix. This is the one with the rich Vespene gas geyser. Ooh, looks like one of the Voids actually did get sniped just now. We're really just going straight into the Mothership? Okay. So what exactly has been changed about the Mothership? Okay, so the Mothership, its attack speed was increased from 1.58 to 2.0. The life has been reduced to 350. Shields also have been increased to basically a 5.0.16 reversion. So this is the old version of the Mothership, assuming we even get it out. Mass recoil cooldown has been changed. There's a new passive called Power Field that allows the Mothership to passively create a pylon power field that allows you to warp in units without shields. Strategic recoil and mass recoil can no longer target fungal units. Units in the process of being recoiled now take 1.5 times damage. Okay. So let's see. If I read it correctly, I believe the Mothership will deal more damage and have a little bit more utility because of the warp-in field. But honestly, it still just takes so bloody long to build her. And obviously, this is against Lorimbo, who is gonna follow his up, or he's gonna follow up his early game aggression with more aggression. Here's the queens, by the way. Keep in mind, the queens can once again transfuse off creep. They're a little bit weaker across the board, but they can still be used as a tank in this particular party. Mama is going to be available now, but it's, yeah, taking a while before she pops out. There is a 4th Nexus, though. I think the Hydra count is just a little bit too big. Yeah. Much like the Zerglings earlier, technically you can clean this up. Let's see, Cloaking gets activated. There's no detection, though, for the Zerg. And that does mean that the Void Rays, together with Mama, are going in. Dude, we should have done one Overseer. I mean, obviously, the Void Rays can try and snipe it, but then they would have to move forward and potentially expose themselves outside of the cloaking field. Overextension, though, here by Shameless, who is now going to be, well, on cooldown, right? I think in this straight-up engagement at this point, the Zerg units are going to have a great time. Keep in mind that Time Warp also reduces attack speed by 50%. More Hydras are showing up. I think there's just barely enough here for the Zerg player. Yep, GG. That takes us to BlackRock. Good luck, good luck, good luck. Good luck, G. I didn't know Shameless was cool like that, dude. Or maybe he just forgot an extra L. Who knows? So, Shameless clearly never got to play what he wanted to do. Will he be able to do that this time around? No, of course not. It's a pool first yet again here for Lorimbo, and this is a very fast one. This appears to be a 12 pool. Good old 12 pool. Oh, we're gonna do a 12 pool with a proxy hatchery? Is that the plan? Are we gonna try and go for a Giga all-in? Sure, why not? Main takeaway from that previous game, I think it's 100% reasonable to move the Flux Veins upgrade to the Cybercore. Any objections? Yeah, so that's one of those things, right, where I can already see the Battle.net forum posts about people complaining how that is utterly busted. It's one of the difficulties of making StarCraft 2 available for people at every skill level. It's a beautiful game, eh? It's a beautiful game. So, how do we address this? Because there's links coming across the map already. How in the world can Protoss hold this? First order of business, get a wall up. But obviously there's a freaking hatchery blocking it, making it all a little difficult. Obviously there's some residual creep as well. Oh, he wants to build it. He probably should not have shift queued it. Nah, I should not have shift queued it. He could have just straight up built it, but this is not something Protoss expects. We're still just gonna plant it down. Zealot number 2 is now out. Very little gas income, by the way, here for Protoss. Shameless, yeah, forced to pull a lot of drones or a lot of probes here out of the Vespine. Obviously, no money available to go for a second assimilator or anything like that, since so many of the probes are fighting. But still, the micro here of Protoss is excellent. Lorimbo, by the way, taking both naturals at the same time now. Just your average game that Lorimbo likes to go for. But again, similar to the previous one, I don't think this is busted. I think this is totally fine. Yeah, it's maybe a bit frustrating. Maybe it's a little bit tilting if you are in Shameless's shoes, but I don't think this is overpowered. Nah. Totally fine. I really miss, though, these builds being very common. Even early in the year, so early 2026, we saw a ton of proxy hatcheries in this matchup. Sadly, 5.0.16, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people don't really like the patch very much. It was supposed to increase the variety that we have, but instead what it's done is that it's reduced the amount of early game variety. So effectively, the way it feels for a lot of the high-ranking players, right, is they've been playing this game for like a decade plus. They've been putting in a ton of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Many of them have committed like a decade of their life, right, to playing this game. And then the patch comes out and it says one thing and it does the opposite. And then Blizzard is like, okay, bye now. And we never hear from Blizzard again. It's kind of crazy. Like maybe Blizzard is going to do something again with BlizzCon or something along those lines. But honestly, I don't have high hopes personally. It just all feels so messy. I think a lot of... Even though the balance is fine, right? A lot of that is the reason for the frustration. If you look at purely win-loss ratios, balance is okay. If you look at just the data, balance is fine. But I think across the board, 5.0.16 has reduced variety, and because of it, players are just a little bit frustrated. The main thing that a lot of people do like, interestingly enough, the main thing that a lot of the top-level players do quite enjoy is the warp gate change. Because ultimately they're gamers, right? Like, they're enjoying figuring things out. I actually thought that originally was going to be one of the things people would really dislike. But the warp gate change seems to be at least something that a lot of people enjoy quite a bit. This dance over here, though, I'm enjoying quite a bit as well for Shameless. A lot of low HP workers. If you can just have a few additional shots, and now with the second adept showing up, I think a lot of drones are going to find death. Keep in mind that Protoss was already ahead as far as the work account goes. One more. Yep. He was already ahead as far as the work account goes. It's a bit of a cursed wall off. But, okay. Wow. Yeah, was there another unit in the main? Ah, there was also an Oracle here joining in. That's the reason why. I didn't even see the Oracle coming through. There we go. I was looking at the very cursed wall off over here. But yeah, Lorimbo decides to tap out. We have the Queen taking a lot of damage. The laser beams are indeed gonna conclude this match. GG. Okay. That will take us to a washout. Final game in this best of 3 series. May I just draw your attention to the upper left-hand corner here? There was no drone. That means we're going for a 12 pool again. Okay. Okay. I feel like Lorimbo is one of those players that a lot of the high-ranking players can take down, but none of them are pleased to go up against him. You know what I mean? Like the top 10, top 20 players on the planet. They're all favored against him, but still, you know it's gonna be a bit of a clown show. And you know you have to be prepared for cheese. Let's see. Now this can be played as a macro build. 12 pool can be played as a macro build if we go for a hatchery on the back of this right now. Shameless's probe scout here is gonna see exactly what's going on. No gas. I'm honestly a little bit surprised he doesn't poke in a bit further and sees whether or not that gas is taken. Oh, well, I guess this is all he really needs to know. So in game number 1, we didn't have a proxy hatch. In game number 2, we had a single proxy hatch. Do we want to go double proxy hatch? I mean, it's very expensive. I think that's the plan, though. He could cancel this one and then plant a new one right over here. There's like no mining at this point in time, though, for Shameless. A lot of links are gonna show up. Let's see. Keep in mind that the Protoss is kind of stuck as well. So we do indeed now restart up a secondary proxy hatch inside of the main base. It's a double proxy hatchery, though. It's glorious. And disgusting. And glorious. And kind of nasty. I think we're gonna go for a double proxy hatch, aren't we? Yeah, we are. Because otherwise, why would you bring a second drone? There we go. There we go. So, Shameless, good luck. This is now a live Sudoku, right? Like, we have to try and figure out how to solve this puzzle while playing against the puzzle simultaneously. Your real-time puzzle-solving skills have to be really good. I'm not sure what the best approach is. I've seen a lot of games of StarCraft 2, but this I've never seen before. Because of it, I'm inclined to believe it's terrible for Zerg. But you know what? How often has Shameless played against this? He's doing a pretty darn good job so far, but the hatcheries are going to be done eventually. A lot of Zerglings, though, are falling now. Hatchery number 1 will not quite finish, I don't believe. I mean, he could finish it up, but I think it's going to get sniped immediately. Probes have been putting in the work. Yeah, you know what? Maybe this is the reason why we don't really see this build. Honestly, Shameless seems quite calm. Him pulling 5 probes precisely, killing it right before the hatchery, well, right after the hatchery finished up, but right before the hatchery really started forming a threat, was kind of sick. Secondary hatch in the main base also gets denied. That is now proxy hatchery number 4. And it's killed 1 probe, 1 zealot. Yo, this is actually flawless here from Shameless. Yeah, GG. One more series? Yeah, 3 best of 3s. Is that too much? I like StarCraft. Let's have a look. Spotting right here in the bottom left. Playing with the red Protoss species. Usually known as Zerg, recently switching to Terran. Now also apparently messing around with Protoss. We have a Reynor. His opponent in the upper right, playing in blue, somebody I'm not personally familiar with, but this is part of one of the weekly cups. So I'm assuming he's going to be a competitive player. I don't know. We'll find out together. We have Chovka. The only thing I could really find out about Chovka is that he's a very good player from Ukraine. But other than that, I don't really know. So I guess this is going to give us a reasonable introduction. The fact, though, that Reynor has decided to play Protoss also means that Reynor is doing this crazy thing, right? Where, bear with me, I think he's playing for fun. What? Professional gamers? Having fun? Disgusting. Never heard of it. Especially real-time strategy players. Myself included, we tend to get very sweaty very fast, right? Sometimes the fun is in the failing, but most of us just want to win. Yeah. What do you think this is? A video game? You think this is a game? You think this is a game? Nah, we play to win. To be fair, though, I'm sure Reynor's Protoss... I mean, we saw that his Terran was really good. I casted that match against Gyarados the other day where he had like a half-hour banger. Very fun game. He showed off his Reaper micro, but then also his long macro games. Honestly, very impressive macro games. So his Terran is very good. And I'm sure his Protoss is going to be formidable as well. That is one of the things, right? Sometimes I get the question, okay, we discuss all the time, like, who's the best Zerg player, who's the best Terran player, who's the best Protoss, who's the best overall? And then naturally the question is, too, who's the best random player? It's probably quite boring, but it's going to be either like Serral, Maru, Reynor, Clem. It's gonna be one of them, right? It's gonna be one of the top dogs. They're just... It turns out there's a lot of skill overlap. It turns out the transferable skill from one to the next is, yeah, surprisingly high. It's even from, like, game to game. I've been paying attention to some of the other ladders for other RTS games as well. Whenever there's, like, a new strategy game out there, and Clem's playing it for, like, 2 days, he's the #1 on the ladder. I don't know how he does it. What is this? Okay, we're gonna go for a Hellion drop. All right, fair. But I don't know how he does it, but every time I don't know, like, there's like zero space going on right now. Clem plays for like 2 days and he's at the absolute top ranks. Just be really good at the game, I suppose. That's the way you do it. Believe it or not, professional gamers are good at games. Yeah. Yeah. Surprise. Now this is problematic. Oh my lord, he finishes it. Wow. I actually thought that that probe was gonna finish the SCV off before the starport would be done. This is obviously still very suboptimal, but at least he's gonna be able to get that starport home at some point. Now it does take 3 Hellions to one-shot a probe. Yeah, so 2 Hellions is nice, but not great. Ooh. Reynor with a skill shot, I guess. little early or a little late maybe with this, but it doesn't matter. Okay. So the secondary group of Hellions did arrive on the other side of the map. Chovka wants to go for a cheeky drop inside of the main. Chovka. It's kind of a cool name, eh? Chovka. It has a very strong Eastern European vibe. Chovka. All right, let's see. Can these Hellions achieve anything? I'm going to say 2 additional drones. That's 1. 3. 4? No, 3. Okay. So, from here on out, what will Reynor do? He's going into just Blink Stalkers. So, I wonder if he's playing Protoss here just to mess around with some of the changes. Or if he's just testing what current builds of Protoss are capable of, right? So, for example, the Conduit Pylon is really fun, but is it good? I don't know. We did see LetaLex get a lot of value out of it. But is this something Reynor wants to be messing around with? We do have a 3rd Nexus coming up. Hallucinated Phoenix Scouts going around as well. I've been featuring a much wider array of players, by the way, on the channel lately. It seems like, in general, a lot of people are really liking it. It's very tempting as a StarCraft caster from, especially replays, right? To only cover the very best players in the game. But there's a lot of people that play StarCraft and that are very good. And obviously, whenever there's a Clem versus Serral series, I have to check that out. But yeah, if you want to see more, let me know. I could certainly go ahead and post, I don't know, like 3 best of 3s. Like once or twice a week, right? And we can have a look at a wider range of players. I think it's fun. Anyways, Dark Shrine here from Reynor. So it's a 3rd Nexus together with a Dark Shrine. Prism as well, Charge as well. So Reynor is just about to put his foot on the gas. This is going to be a major skill check right here for the Terran, who, weirdly enough, is combat shields first. What? I mean, I thought the micro there was decent. But combat shields first, without a 2nd tech lab over here that's making Stimpack, is crazy. It's Lowko. So he sees the little shimmer of the Observer, scans for it, gets rid of it. Nice. Combat shields first, unless he's got something very spicy in mind, doesn't really make a lot of sense. And obviously, we don't have a lot of medevacs yet. Hey, that is one of the upgrades here. Hold up, let me just... Dark Shrine. Hold up, don't kill him! Don't kill him yet, Reynor! So I know there's a couple of new Stalker upgrades. I think that's one of the Stalker buffs, if I recall correctly. So there's the Phase Reactor, and then the Tachyon Emitters. Yeah, the Tachyon Emitters are inside of the Dark Shrine. Increases the Stalker's attack range by 1.5. And then this right over here is the Phase Reactor, which improves the Stalker's blink to restore 40 shields over 4 seconds. Zealots in the meantime going in. Okay, apparently we're not going to see any of it. Because the game ended. GG. Okay, 2nd game in this best of 3. We find ourselves on a Rainfall. Yeah, it's a little bit of Rainfall, right? This is more like a drizzle. Drizzle LE. I mean, the English language has a lot of words for rain. Rainfall. Yeah, that's like, you know, if rain is on a scale from like 0 to 10, right? And 0 basically no rain at all. 10 is like a storm. I would say Rainfall is like a 5 out of 10 on that scale. This feels like a 2 or maybe a 3. I feel like Rainfall LE is a bit too strong of a word. Now, for what it's worth, they did nerf the Rainfall on this map. During the TOMC, there were like puddles and whatnot inside of the main base too. So the Rainfall got nerfed, but I guess the map name never changed. I feel bad for the map maker. Yeah, Reynor on Rainfall. Maybe we need to change it to Rainfall. Alright, sorry about that. We're gonna see a comment center on the low ground in just a moment. Reynor, by the way, playing with the Reynor ID. Recently, he's been a big fan of Basilisk Array, which I guess has a character limitation problem. He's still on Basilisk. I guess that may be like his Asian server name or something along those lines. All right, anyways, Chovka going in around the back. Trying to maybe take a page out of Clem's book, right? So nothing all too crazy so far, but this can be very annoying. This is at the very least going to force those Stalkers and Adepts to stay at home and a shield battery as well. Reynor actually has no clue that this is happening. I wonder if he had vision of it. Not sure. Stargate here for the Protoss, who's actually a Zerg, who actually recently also played Terran. It's a bit confusing, really. He's a StarCraft player. Maybe that's the better way to word it. Okay. Shield battery indeed coming up. And this is one of the reasons, really, why Terrans still like going for this build, even though it rarely deals a lot of damage. It's forcing Protoss players to stay at home, and it kind of gives you the ability to hold the cards, right? Like, you can play your own game here for a bit. This is rarely going to deal a lot of damage, but it's just annoying, and Protoss is unable to really do much while this is happening. It's going to be a Phoenix opener here for Reynor. Phoenixes do have a new upgrade as well. Let me just pick it up real quick. What was it exactly again? So there is Graviton Restoration. Graviton Restoration, you research it inside of the cybernetics core, and it requires a Stargate. It's 100 minerals, 100 gas, 79 seconds, and it allows the Phoenix to rapidly regenerate shields while Graviton Beam is active. So basically, the guy that lifts regens HP. It's kind of similar to IRL, I guess. Anyways. Depends on how you lift, I suppose, right? I've seen some ego lifting as well at the gym. Not a great idea. Those guys are not regenning their IRL HP, but... not a bad idea to go for. So the problem, obviously, is we do hit a supply block right now here. The problem, of course, is that Phoenixes kind of fall off. Honestly, I feel like Phoenixes are very mediocre in general, but they fall off especially later on in the game. So the reasoning for this, according to the document, is that it adds a fun new mid-game upgrade to the Phoenix without making Phoenix styles too oppressive. Graviton Restoration can be researched in place of an air attack or a weapon upgrade. This upgrade allows the Phoenixes to regen up to 100 shields while Graviton Beam is active. And you know what? It says credits to LetaLex for the idea. Who was, of course, the player. There we go. Who we saw in game number 1. So far, though, casting quite a few of these games, it does feel to me that Terran kind of got the short end of the stick. They drew the shortest straw. Zerg has all these new tools. Protoss has all these new cool researches. Terrans have a reworked Raven. Yay. There's a bunch of things changed as well to Terran. Especially the Terran mech. Maybe that's actually one of the reasons. There's a very long list of changes that is supposedly gonna make Terran mech viable against Protoss. But I guess, yeah, Terran players have been bullied one too many times and baited one too many times with mech, to the point where they don't even want to give it a try anymore. I think actually Terran mech in the live version of the game against Zerg is phenomenal. There's also some good, like, late game upgrades for Terran bio now. But, yeah, Marines. Obviously, we do have some siege tank buffs as well. Some siege upgrades too, but... oh, jeez, really? Okay, Chovka has decided that the opponent is being a little bit too cheeky. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why Phoenix builds are kind of problematic. Taking a page out of Maru's book. Maru is a big fan of this build. Is there enough for Protoss to clean this up? We have a Conduit Pylon over here for the mass shields. Whenever you're warping units right now, they do spawn with full shields, which is kind of nice, but is there just simply not too much Terran? I love the bunker. Siege tanks do not have their upgrades to reduce friendly fire. 5 SCVs have already died. Bunkers coming up right now, though, to make it really difficult for Terran here to be attacked. What are the Adepts going to do? We do have some of the reinforcing units, including this tank, actually, getting destroyed. We do have to finish it. Yep, he's going to be able to finish it off. But honestly, even with one tank down the drain, this is still an extremely difficult army to beat. Immortals would be phenomenal, but I feel like the Immortals are very expensive now, too. This cheeky all-in. It is one that never really leaves the meta. It loses popularity from time to time, but this is one of those attacks that we've been seeing for such a long time that will just, every once in a while, pop up. Stimpack is going to be the first upgrade. Actually, no, it's the second upgrade. Dude, again! Chovka got combat shields first in the last game. Now he's doing it again in this one, too. Very interesting. He's got no medevacs, so I guess he's decided that it's just not worth it. Does he? Yeah, he doesn't know about the third. But honestly, this looks extremely difficult. Reynor, though, doubling down, right? He's making a lot of Phoenixes, and he's now getting a second Stargate as well for even more Phoenixes. And keep in mind, the Phoenixes do now heal. The one that's lifting is the one that heals up. Is he even gonna take another base? Yeah, I guess that's the plan. He's got a lot of money, but he needs to address this army. This is a slow push. And obviously, since a lot of SCVs were pulled, it's not like Chovka's economy here in the meantime is phenomenal. This is good, though. The reinforcing units now waiting for a small little group to show up rather than sending them out single file. Still, this is a lot of Phoenixes that just don't have a ton of energy. They have enough energy. Yeah, the Phoenixes could honestly clean this up. I don't know, man, but double Stargate Phoenix, you end up with a lot. And there is this, like, critical mass where you kind of appear to have one of the lifts available at all times. That's another siege tank going down. Dude, can Mass Phoenix actually clean this up still? Natural expansion may be gone, but Reynor's economy is not terrible. Third base is also going to disappear. This is more viable than I thought it was going to be. Don't do it. I know your name is immortal, but you're not actually. No, it was bait. Okay. Reynor pulls him back up towards the high ground. Obviously, you cannot lift units that are inside of bunkers, nor can you lift bunkers. I mean, that would be bonkers if you could. 2 more siege tanks, though, end up biting the dust. Ghost Academy coming up for Chovka. The plan is to EMP. He wants to EMP the flying units. Honestly, not a terrible idea, right? Without energy, these Phoenixes are terrible. We're gonna see a recall, I would imagine, here down south, but he needs one of these fancy pylons because a recall has been removed. Yeah, a recall has been removed out of the Nexus. So he's gonna have to recall the mineral line, I suppose, or separate a batch of these units and send them down towards this Conduit Pylon instead. Still a lot of army available, though, for the Zerg, or for the Zerg player, for the Protoss player here. Do we not want to recall? Do we not want to build ghosts? I guess Chovka here is already assuming that the opponent was going to tap out. There we go. We did now send some of the units down south. And that's one of the things that Terran doesn't currently know about. He has no idea about that third base. This is a plentiful group of Phoenixes, though, to just shut all of this down. Yeah, he needs to be careful because lifting Marines does take up a lot of energy. I think 1 or 2 ghosts would be a game changer. Okay, he now finds this base over here on the left. That's problematic. That is problematic. He decides to pull the trigger, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I don't know about this one. Even though these Marines will die, at this point we're talking a Terran economy that is roughly thrice as big as the Protosses. And while we do have a lot of Phoenixes up, I think this army disappearing with that fancy new siege tech animation, which I still think looks phenomenal. I think with these siege tanks disappearing, though, and all of these other Protoss units also biting the dust, this can only ever lead, indeed, to a Terran win. GG. That means our final game for today, it takes place on Eternity's Edge. I did fast forward through the first couple minutes of the game, mostly because everything is, well, for the most part, quite standard. Did the sentries get any love? Let me actually see. This is going to be for hallucinations again. Sentry build time has been changed a little bit. Fair enough. Not really that big of a deal. Sentry beam damage. Oh, it's actually increased as we have a proxy starport yet again and we have a Hellion build yet again. So sentry damage in the live version of StarCraft 2 is 6 plus 4 versus shields. And now the damage has been increased to 8. Still don't think you guys are going to deal a lot of damage, but hey, at least you will be dealing some damage. That's nice. The hallucination adept count? Oh, okay. So if you hallucinate adepts, you get 3. If you hallucinate zealots, you get 3 as well. And if you hallucinate probes, you get 5. So for the adept, that's up from 2. For the zealots, that's up from 2. And then for the probe hallucination, that's up from 4. Meaning that if you spent your energy on 1 hallucination of probes, you get 5. Which is kind of nice. Since the strength of the sentry scouting utility has been greatly reduced by the removal of energy overcharge. Right, so there's no energy recharge on anything here anymore for Protoss. Small unit hallucinations have been buffed to return a small amount of the lost scouting strength. That's the idea. Looks like we do indeed have that Hellion filled up with its full cargo this time around. So this is what Chovka wanted to go for in game number 1. Reynor going into the, what seems to be, well, Stalker opener yet again. Let's see, though. How much damage? How much of a barbecue are we hosting? What sort of barbecue party is this? 5 probes thus far. Ooh, make it 8. I mean, you can feed a whole family. on like 1 probe, I think. If they like metallic pieces. Yeah, maybe they're not very tasty. Yeah, probably one of the issues you're running into right now. Still though, this is much better harassment than in game number 1, especially if you can keep the units alive or if you can add a couple more kills. Sure. Lasers. Where are the lasers? Ooh. Now that's problematic. We're gonna send it. Now we just want to maximize damage. And maximizing damage we are. Woo! Reynor finding himself in a bit of a pickle here. This is 24 probes remaining. And this is not what he was expecting at all. Let's see. Can we actually still somehow, some way get back here? Because this is a very significant deficit. I think that's just about perfect. 21 probes. Oi, 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 oi. 21 probes. We do have Blink. We are going Dark Shrine again, so this is very reminiscent of game number 1 thus far. Except, yeah, Reynor is just way down. Now, Chovka did not go for a fast expansion of his own. So, yeah, the mule mining is very important here. But it's not like he's been able to do this the entire game long. I would imagine we're once more gonna go for some of the Dark Templar and then transition towards the Stalker upgrades. So one of the 2 Stalker upgrades allows you to regen shields when you blink. The other Stalker upgrade allows you to get additional range on your Stalkers. And the idea is that Stalkers kind of tend to fall off in like the later stages of the mid-game. So these upgrades are not cheap. You can get them reasonably early, I suppose, but it's a big investment early on. I think they're kind of meant to be used later on in the game. And then they are, well, intended to make the unit more viable the longer that the game goes on, which is kind of sick. I think I think that's a very reasonable thing. All right, invisible men, 3 of them. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. So when you warp them in on a regular pylon, they spawn without shields. When you warp them in on a Conduit Pylon, aka the buffed up version of the pylon, they do spawn with full shields. Interesting mechanic. Don't know if I love that, but I think it's interesting. Ooh, Chovka here has detection as well. Yeah, this is going perfectly well here for the Ukrainian Terran. Not bad. He did go Stimpec, but again, after combat shields. This man is just a huge fan of combat shields first. I don't know how I feel about it, but given the 2 options, he apparently chooses to go, yeah, combat shields. I mean, it's 10 HP for the units, it's not bad. Good scanning as well, gets rid of it. This is massively problematic for Reynor. He is gonna go for the upgrade though, and maybe these upgrades can carry him back into the game, right? So, Protoss here going for something fresh, something new. Chovka not really mixing any of the new upgrades in just yet. Not really aiming to change his playstyle all too much. So some of the core units, I guess, for Protoss have been changed. I guess that's actually one of the big differences in this mod. The core Protoss units have always been kind of problematic, I guess. Like, Protoss always had to deal with, like, band-aid solutions. Like, for example, the Mothership Core and all the rest of it. And ultimately, the Mothership Core was a necessity because the Protoss units just kind of sucked. But Terran units, yeah, they've always been pretty good. I feel like all of these units are indeed not really in need of any sort of adjustments. So Chovka's going to try and send it. We're not going to pull the boys, though. And honestly, having these Stalkers out with the shield reel gen is pretty sick. Yeah, I wonder if combat shields is changed at all. Combat shield. No. Added a combat shield passive icon to the Marine. That's the only thing that's changed. This is a nice attack, though. Protoss is dealing a lot of damage. Third base, actually, of Terran is likely going to go down. Chovka is busy trying to see if he can go ahead and win the game right now, but this is not that clear cut. Because obviously, yeah, we have these upgrades for the Stalkers, which is nice. But we also had to make a Dark Shrine because of it. And when you have only 2 orbital commands, maybe 3, you just don't have a ton of energy. You can't really scan indefinitely here. And look, already there's a Dark Templar slicing away. I think this is just about the perfect idea for Reynor. Forcing scans out is massive, dude. There's now 3 Dark Templar cleaning all of this up. There's a scan. He doesn't have blink available. He doesn't blink on these units, though, and it's been extremely useful. Marines and Marauders popping out of the barracks right now. Now that the scan is worn off, we're going back in for more. There's another scan, but already all of the siege tanks are gone. Both players taking a tremendous amount of damage. One of the orbital commands does indeed die. Reynor forced to pull a rabbit out of a hat, but he may just be achieving exactly that goal. Fourth Nexus is done. Drop in the main base will continue, however. Chovka is not here in a terrible position. It's just that he has no way to deal with the Stalkers in the main. And these guys have been regenerating shields like no tomorrow. Should we have gone home? I think we probably should. Man, I looked away for a moment, and look at that. We have some more ninjas over here. Just destroying the army. Both players taking an insane amount of damage. Chovka has 5 SCVs remaining. Wow. GG gets called yet again. So let me get this straight. Reynor loses like 2 dozen... I want to say 2 dozen probes to 4 Hellions. And then he manages to bring it back. Playing his off race against a high-ranking Grandmaster Terran. Yeah, obviously that was a mistake right there from the Terran player, right? There's a lot of room for improvement there, but it is sometimes quite interesting to see what the actual skill difference is, even at the highest level. Like, you may be like a top 50 player on the European server, for example, but that is a very far throw from the guys that are top 5. That was a lot of fun, though. I think we learned a lot, right? We saw a lot of fresh strategies, a lot of interesting builds. The double proxy hatchery, the Conduit Pylon cheeses, the Dark Templar shenanigans, the Terran all-ins with all the SCVs. Yeah, we had a lot of early game aggression again, and I kind of missed it. We don't really see that a lot anymore. GG.